Number 10, the friar. Okay, so monk versus friar. So 64 says a clergyman who, unlike a monk, was supposed to tend to the affairs of the outside world. Friars supported themselves by begging, and they had to have a license to beg within a certain physical district.
So they're like church serfs.
Kind of, yes. So you know how in Robin Hood, Friar Tuck was like ministering to the poor? That's kind of what friars are supposed to do. So instead of having a church where they preach, they go to the people who can't get to church. Okay, a friar there was, a wanton and a merry, a limiter, a very worthy man. In all the orders four is none that can equal his friendliness and fair language. He had arranged full many a marriage of young women, and this at his own cost. Unto his order he was a noble post, well liked by all, and intimate was he with franklins everywhere in his country, and with the worthy women of the town. For very sweetly did he hear confession, and pleasant also was his absolution. Okay, so pause. Okay, so the beginning, the first 4 lines make this guy out to be
really nice.
really great. So, you know, like really good example. But then lines 5 through 10 suggest maybe
he sleeps.
that he trades sexual favors for things that he does, like marrying people and receiving confession.
I'm confused. We'll read 68. 68 implying.
68 says, implying that the friar exchanged forgiveness for sexual
Like,
favors.
can you give us an example? Like,
As in, he stops in a town and this
okay.
young girl comes to wherever he's at and says, "Forgive me, friar, for I have sinned. I walked out of the house while my mom was talking to me yesterday." And he says, "Well, I can forgive that for one
Oh, okay.
handy."
Ah! Okay. I was just like, didn't really
Is that a good
know
enough
what this-
example?
Yeah, that's a good. That's fine.
Probably should have paused the video for that one. Okay,
No, I get you.
next one. He was an easy man to give penance when knowing he should gain a good pittance. So same kind of thing. So if you didn't provide him with a favor, perhaps you gave him money in exchange for whatever you
Martin
needed.
Luther would love this guy.
Yes. For to a begging friar, money given is sign that any man has been well shriven. For if one gave, he dared to boast of this, he took the man's repentance not amiss. For many a man there is no hard of heart, he cannot weep however pains may smart. Therefore, instead of weeping and of prayer, men ought to give some silver to the poor farers. His tippet was stuck always full of knives and pins to give to young and pleasing wives. And certainly he kept a merry note. Well could he sing and play upon the rote. At balladry he bore the prize away. His throat was white as lily of the May. Yet strong he was as any champion. In towns he knew the taverns, every one, and every host and gay barmaid also. Better than beggars and lepers did he know. Okay, so there's a long section in there kind of talking about the philosophy of the time about friars, and Thad alluded to Martin Luther. If you remember when we read the Crucible, Martin Luther was opposed to
Catholic Church's pardons.
the Catholic Church's corruption and how money was kind of becoming more important than God, than worship. And this is a prime example. So if you were reading this in 1390 when it was published, this guy in particular would cause you to laugh out loud because it is total satire.
Yeah.
total parody, making fun of
Like church.
the church and the way the church handles things. So we have this friar who's supposed to be well acquainted with the sick, the poor. But when he goes to each town, the people he knows are people at the bar.
And all the ladies in the
And
bar,
all the
too?
women.
Oh.
So he's a ladies' man.
Well, whoever said he's a garden tool, he is definitely a garden tool.
I didn't say that.
Said he's a hoe.
I did say that.
I didn't say that. Nice.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay. Top of 18. For unto no such solid man as he accorded it as far as he could see, to have sick lepers for acquaintances. There is no honest advantageousness in dealing with such poverty-stricken curs. It's with the rich and the big victuallers. And so, wherever profit might arise, courteous he was, and humble in men's eyes. There was no other man so virtuous. He was the finest beggar of his house. A certain district being farmed to him, none of his brethren dared to approach its rim. Okay, so again, more exaggeration about how he behaves. He would tell you the people he chooses to befriend are
Rich.
the rich, or people who sell food, or like you could imagine like the innkeepers. These are the people he wants to be friends with because they have
Money.
something to
Yeah.
give him, something he wants. There's no reason to be kind to
Or
the poor and dying.
Poor leper Jimmy.
No, forget them. Okay?
forget them.
And he's also like very protective of his
Like his
area. I
land.
kind of equate him to like a modern day drug dealer. Like,
Okay.
so drug dealers don't always use their product, right? Because they know how psycho people become who do. But they're nice to the people who they need to be nice to. And the people they don't, they either kill or ignore. Kind of like this. So,
Kill him.
so the other friars stay out of his area.
I'm kind of like scared of him. It seems like.
Okay?
So, like, he kind of makes the other friars
He's like the top
scared
drug dealer.
to like come into his like place where he runs. Basically, it's kind of like gangs almost.
Gangs with
Okay.
friars.
Medieval games.
Yeah.
Wow, this
Okay.
is awesome.
Listen, man.
Okay. 45. For though a widow had no shoes to show, so pleasant was his in principio, he always got a farthing ere he went. He lived by pickings, it is evident, and he could romp as well as any whelp. On love days he could be of great help, for he was not like a cloisterer with threadbare cope, as is the poor scholar, but he was like a lord or like a pope. Of double worseted was his semi-cope, that rounded like a bell, as you may guess. He lisped a little out of wantonness to make his English soft upon the tongue, and in his harping, after he had sung, his two eyes twinkled in his head as bright as do the stars within the frosty night. This worthy limiter was named Hubert.
That's
Wow,
why
that's
he's weird
unfortunate.
because of his name. He's weird. Hubert.
Okay, so not only all the great qualities that we already talked about him, but he's also a smooth talker.
Ooh.
So he can go to the poorest widow in the town and start in on his little religious gambit, and pretty soon the widow is giving him all her money. He can also sing and play music,
Hubert.
and he's called Hubert.
Gross.
That-